Tonight's profile is about Gilroy Clother Jr. He's got no great claim to fame, but the high school student's story is compelling. He grew up tough in the swamps of Freedom Street, ended up in the States, got kicked out of school, lost a brother to kidney failure, and then used that inspiration to rebuild himself. Here's his story.
My name is Gilroy Clother Jr. I grew up on Freedom Street. It was a big, bumpy, dusty road that you could barely get through because of all the swamps and things that infested it. And when I was younger, my mother always had to work to get my sister and brothers through school, so I barely saw her during the daytime. And then at night when she came home, I could barely stay with her because she was so tired and she had to rest for the next day. And one thing I can remember from my childhood is when I was always mad and sad because I got angry very easily. So my brother used to always come and just pick me up and throw me on the bed. We used to start playing wrestling. And after about 5 minutes, we started playing video games, basketball, football, and fighting video games. When my brother died from kidney failure, these are the memories I have left of him. When I was younger and it was time for me, and I finally got the age to go to school, which was 5 years old, I saw my 6 older siblings going to school and coming home every day and telling me stories about how they did in school and people they talked to. And then when my mother finally told me the news that she wouldn't be able to send me because she was working so hard, and to send another child to school, she wouldn't be able to do it. She might be able to afford the uniform, but she wouldn't be able to afford sneakers and textbooks and school bags, and those are the essential things I need for school. So when my aunt and my grandmother called my mother and convinced her to send me to New York, when I finally got to New York and I went to my aunt and my grandmother's house, I was very nervous at first because I didn't know whether I would fit in this environment. So I didn't know what to do, and then after a few days and I got accustomed to them, it was like I was back in Belize with my mother, but I knew that nothing could replace my feeling for her. So they did their best to help me and provide for me to go to school. When I finally started going to school, at first things was going good because I didn't know anybody, so I kept to myself. But after a few weeks and I got to know people, I started misbehaving because I felt like I was the boss. I was the boss of myself. Nobody could tell me nothing. And I was a very outspoken person. At times, I used obscene language against teachers. I hit other students. And I just was uncontrollable. And then after a while, like every other year, I started getting suspended. And then, like after my 3rd suspension, they told me if I was to get suspended again, I would have a police record and I would go to juvie. So they called my mother to take me back to Belize to see if it was that link that I was missing. When I came back to Belize, my brother had already given in to kidney failure, and I was reunited with my sister, which I haven't seen in 9 years. So everything, it came back to me gradually, but like after a while, when I knew that I could go talk to my brother at his grave, like that was emotionally, that was supportive for me because I know that even though he's dead, like he's still listening to me and he's gonna guide over me. So I had another emotional supportive person in my life even though he was already gone. And I know I wanted to live up to his standard because he was my role model. He went to Edward P. High School and he graduated at the top of his class. So I wanted to be exactly like him when I grew up. Even though I wanted to have an education and be like my brother in school, I knew that after a while, reality hit me. The reason why I went to New York in the first place, my mother wouldn't have the money to send me to school, and now she already gave a kidney to my brother, so it's even worse now that she can't work. I was sitting around and moping in my house, and my sister and my mother kept on talking about, I'm really anxious to go to school and I want to learn new things. So my sister took it upon herself to go and find out if find a way for me to get into school. And then after a while, she found out about Restore Belize scholarship program. Then after a few months, she got me on the scholarship program and I started attending Excelsior High School. and I was doing excellent at the high school at first, and I kept on doing better and better after a while. And when I left Excelsior High School in first form, I was first in my class, and I got awards for plenty of subjects. Then I started my second year at ACC college. So when I started there, I wasn't doing that good because I was just getting used to the work. Even though my family was financially challenged, and I know the trouble they had to go through to get me into school, I still am from now and again tempted to get in trouble. But I remember each time I want to give trouble, I remember the talk that my mother had with me. If I give trouble, she would give up on me. Then I snap right back into reality and do my schoolwork. And now that I've actually accomplished my goals somewhat partially, it's just making me motivated to do better and better. And that's in my life. All I want to do is make my mother proud. So later down in life, I could give back to her. And I want to take care of her when she needs it. And now that I'm on the Restore Belize program, I want to give back to the people that gave to me so I can have an education. And this is why I am doing as good as I am in school, so I could pay them back and show them that this isn't a waste of time, and you should do this for other people because it is a good chance for them to get by in life.